Everybody ready?
So get
Okay.
ready. We'll listen to the guest speaker.
Okay, so everybody, this is John O'Malley.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. All right. I'm sharing at least my screen. Can you see that? Or do
Yes,
I?
yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
good. Not a problem, sir. Good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
So I don't know your formal meetings and requirements, so you can let me know when you're ready, or
Yep,
you guys do what you need to do first.
we're good to go.
You good? You already
Yep,
did all your meeting
yep,
counts and made everybody
yep,
sign in and check the box. That's good.
yep.
Yeah, yeah, looks good. Just wanted to ask if we could share your presentation once we're done
Yep.
with
Yep.
the other members that couldn't make it here. So I want to make sure we have your approval to do so.
Yep. I do apologize. It's a rushed presentation compared to what I normally do, so please forgive me. Um, I
The
haven't.
first slide looks good to us.
Yeah.
So my name is John O'Malley. I've been in cybersecurity for over 20 years before it was even called cybersecurity. I've been in IAM. That is my key specialized area within cybersecurity. It's identity access management. Um, I actually started this a different way. Goes into I started identity access management as my 18 years in the military. I had 798 direct reports, learned how to manage access across that. I was for 14 years in SOCOM, which is Special Operations Command. I specialized in crypto, so I did communications encryption, satellite encryptions. I've programmed 3 submarines. I have wrote 11 NSA level quantum
There we
encryption
go.
codes. So that is how I got into IAM by using quantum codes with access based on who the unit was and things like that. At one time, I had over 7 million different lines of encryption code, along with about 400 units that would require encryption code with me. So I took the beginning stages of IAM and stretched it out to matching encryption codes with access and developed that way. Give me 1 second. All right. My title for this presentation is IAM Best Practices. Again, this is best practices overall. You can go to one corporation and they will say, yes, we like that, but we want to do this. We like that. We'll do it that way. Please understand identity access management has a book, probably about 10 books long, and it's like going to the doctor. Every time you do, you get a different opinion. These are guidelines that I have done through by either FedRAMP, which is federal auditing, or by HIPAA, which is hospitals. I have been involved with some of the largest um, cybersecurity breaches that do involved with identity access management. So what I am telling you is practices that I teach other people. I've been involved with the Target one. I've been involved with Change Healthcare Optum one. I have been involved with Palo Altos and some of the other largest big ones. Is there any questions at this time?
No questions here.
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay. So the executive summary that we're going through, IAM is a critical securing hybrid healthcare environments. I say healthcare environments because whether you are on the bank financial, you still have to meet HIPAA and things. If you are inside manufacturing, you still are required to meet healthcare codes. Healthcare codes not only include SOC, FISMA, High Trust, or HIPAA, but it includes several of your others. So SOC 2, SOC versus SOX. And then you can look at several other of them that you go through. The last comment just tells you about what this goes through. It's just teaching technical best practices. Um, Again, each location will probably have 5 or 6 different policies on IAM for you to read through. Vision and objections, objects. I'm sorry, my tongue is twisted today. We want to ensure that all staff have seamless access. You want to ensure that every digital transformation from on-prem to cloud, or just on-prem or just cloud, is recorded. You will hear a lot of people say, well, we just put out SIM technology to record everything. IAM actually has its own set of recordings that are required through that. So you want to ensure that you have those recorded. Every business ensures compliance with healthcare regulations. Again, it doesn't matter if you're in the bank. It doesn't matter if you're a student here. At your school, you signed a HIPAA release. If you don't, go ask your person. Every school is required to maintain HIPAA policies. So those are healthcare policies. Anybody not know that you signed a HIPAA release? Okay. You want to protect all your PII requirements. You can do this by multiple different ways. High-tech requirements are tied into that. That includes whether you use a service account, a user's request account, a bot account. And please note, there is a difference, if you're not aware, between a service account and a bot account. And then you want to ensure that your mobile access. I did put telehealth and EHR on there due to the fact that you probably have telehealth that you go through your doctor or things like that. Zero trust and cloud security models are a big key today. The biggest thing that you're going to find with zero trust or cloud securities is it has to be updated every day within keys, users access, and things like that. Most architects design within identity access. You specialize in AD, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, or Google's. IBM is now developing theirs. If you're not keeping up with the world, Azure, Google Cloud, IBM, and then there's the fourth big cloud environment. They're all going to have different Active Directory structures. Federation between your system and the user is a big key. And what this refers to is identifying the user at the lowest level to ensure that you are following your zero policies. And then integrate with whether you're got clinical systems, your manufacturing systems, or integrate with your school systems. The reason I bring that in is, if you guys are aware, Austin Peay was hit with ransomware about 4 years ago. Anybody aware of that? Just out of curiosity. So I was actually pulled in. We had found out a student had logged into their clinical systems. Clinical systems was their virtual, and downloaded ransomware, and it spread through the environment. The student did not know that they were doing anything wrong. It had kicked off, but a student had caused Austin Peay to be down for about 6 weeks. Another big thing that you find within your Active Directory is your vendor partnerships. This does include any vendor that you have that you integrate either on the LDAP level or your SAML level. For this, I'm going to use your school as a reference. You probably partner with businesses outside of your school for either class hours or training. You probably do. I assume you do, because most colleges I've talked to, yes, they do. So you have an LDAP connection, or you have a connection within the cloud going back and forth with your Active Directory. We are taught as IAM to use Active Directory as your source of truth. And the reason for this is all your systems should connect to it. All your users should be in it and built. and all your users and your sources should have constant callback to your Active Directory. Is everybody understand where Active Directory is stored on a corporate business? Is that yes, no? Sorry, I don't see nobody, so I can't tell.
Please describe, please.
Okay, so Active Directory is a system that's based on a server. Usually Microsoft Server is where most businesses have it. Active Directory can also be a cloud native application like Azure Active Directory. It is stored in the most centralized part of your network. So if 80% of your business is cloud, it's probably going to be stored on cloud primary. You always have a master and then you have slaves. That is what they call. I do apologize. And then if your business is 80% on prem, your master is going to be on prem. The reason for that is you want the quickest and the fastest time for your LDAP and your vendors to connect to your central location to federate with their ID to grant them their access. If you put your second or third in the cloud, it does slow down. Yes.
Oh, there we go.
We good?
Yep, just got the webcam working finally.
Sorry. Oh, I can see everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Okay.
That's
Moving
a
on.
little better interaction.
Yep. So the next thing that I teach, and when I teach, my class usually lasts about 8 weeks, so I'm breaking this up very quickly, so I apologize. Lever joiner movers. These are where your bots and your service accounts are going to come in play. These are integrated like into your HR system. So when a new employee comes on, that bot goes out, collects that user's information, creates an account into the Active Directory and says, this is what the user's ID is going to be. You can have these automate. So companies like SailPoint that you're going to hear about as you continue in this, or Delinea that you're going to hear into this, they automate, they create things like this. So that way you don't have to do it as an individual. And the reason that they integrate directly with the HR system, as soon as a person is approved, their account's created. You don't have that delay. That is also becoming a fairly modern SOX audit. However many accounts you have in your HR system, you must have in your Active Directory. If a user's been terminated for 10 years and HR still holds onto them, that account must be in your Active Directory and saved, even if it's 10 years. So that's why you see a lot of that. Another big key is when you will find that when somebody is terminated, those joiners and movers will sit there and flare up to show that the person from the HR system is now terminated. They need to be disabled into your Active Directory, whether it's on-prem or cloud, and all the access that is removed from there must be removed. So you're going to see these heavily in your thing. The biggest thing that you see efficiently with this is to reduce the amount of risk. A user that is orphaned or no longer tracked by HR or the IAM team is a big risk. That is where you get exposure. That is where accounts get corrupt and get hacked. So if you look at the Change Healthcare, it was an account that was 10 years old that got hacked from Optum, and it was just a madhouse from there. Any questions on that? Yes.
So to be clear, when you say an account that's 10 years old is held by HR, you mean to never delete an old,
No.
never delete an old account and to just hold on to it?
So if HR is holding on to that account for maybe a legal issue, or that account is being tied up because they created as a user account instead of creating a service account, and they can no longer switch it over because it's tied into it, you have to have that account in your AD to match your HR system. So, an example, when they first set up their HR system, they may use a user's identity to make that connection work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And that, yeah. So what happens is that user retires after 22 years because they built that 22 years ago. You can't get rid of that user in the HR system because that user is now the primary things. There's nothing you can do. So you have to have that account inside your Active Directory to allow audit to be able to connect one-to-one. This was done a lot of practices before service accounts were truly service accounts, and they could do what they could do today. Best practice in that thing is I tell HR and everything, I'm going to create an account. You're going to get the account. If you don't like it, I know where the bucket that you can cry in is. A lot of times they understand why, but you know, a lot of new HR people like coming out of schools and things like that don't realize how one account can be tied for so long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Very good explanation. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So and as long as you spend in identity access management, cybersecurity long enough, you're going to hear about role-based access. Role-based access is truly the person comes on, they are giving one set of rules and it grants them all their access they need. I will tell what? Oh, sorry, I heard. So I tell everybody 80% is great and wonderful. I can't ever imagine a business to ever get 100%. And here's why. One, software changes out. Two, people get promoted and depromoted. Three, there is a lot of changes within your structure as you go up or down or left or right. So I tell everybody getting 80% of their role in a role-based access will control it. And what that means is you sign into your computer, you get 80% of your access that you need to do your job. With that, there are extras that you can get. So if you're being trained going from a team lead to a manager, you can do add-ons to get those extra things. That's where that reduces the friction, is that 20% of add-ons, movement, and things like that. ABAC is a dynamic access. So what it does is it goes throughout and it says your job title means you can only do this job. In other words, if you come in and you're coming into a manufacturing, and this manufacturing company builds boats, and your job title says you're the propeller spinner, that means your access into that building is only going to take you to where the propeller spinners are, and you get to spin that propeller. You can't look at any other part or anything. That is dynamic. It is just 100%. That is all you can do. You used to see a lot of this pre-2020, as they thought this would be. You did see a lot of this in hospitals where you had nurses that would work floor 8 today and work floor 9 tomorrow. So they had to have different access. But that's somewhat going away due to the fact that role-based access is more taking control, because it allows you to have a lot of your access and then you can add on to it. The one big thing that you see a lot of with role-based access is what location you are, grants your access, and what times you can start and you have to end. The 9 to 5 and all this, we want you to have family time and things. Businesses are now starting to shut down your computers 10 minutes prior to what time you get off. And then you have some businesses that don't. Where I work at, I play on quantum computers all day long. So I actually write post-quantum and help manage quantum computers. We get shut off exactly 15 minutes before our time is. And that allows us to computers to shut down. We go and do our cleanup, and we then turn around and bring down the big boys. So that way we have time to do it. If you try to do it, it will override and send security an alert. The place I work at, we are on dynamic access just because of funding. So that way we can ensure we keep up with it. Any questions about this so far?
This is a great content. If you, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm glad that you're covering some of this, because some of the content that you talk about, it's something that we cover in CIS 2535, which is your Windows server class. So if you haven't taken that server class, eventually when you take the course, you'll learn most of what John is talking about. So thank you for covering those points. Also, if anyone took CIS 1600, which is Fundamentals of Cybersecurity, there's an entire section that relates to access control, Active Directory, added users. So it all clicks at the end. Really what you want to do is just pay attention to the naming, and that's what you want to do. Work on those names, you become familiar with it and know where it fits. So I thank you for highlighting those points, and I just want to add to what you have contributed so far. Thank you.
Yep, not a problem. So if you stay in identity access anytime, I'm guarantee you after your first year, you're going to get sold, hey, we've got an audit coming up. We need to evaluate users. We need to evaluate access. We need to do ready reports. We need to do certifications. Those words you're going to hear any part of identity access. You're going to hear those about every quarter. Most businesses, most audits say once a year. Most businesses do it every quarter. So that way, once a year is checked and they don't have to worry about running through. Periodic certification. So if you go through and you hear you need a high trust audit, or you need a SOX audit, or you need a FISMA, this is where they're going to go evaluate every user that you have in your HR system, what access that they have, who is your high risk. In other words, so if you have a user that has an AD, like domain administrator account, those are your high risk accounts. You have to justify those. You have to keep a track of how much risk you have within these users. And then you put all this information together and you submit a report. Every audit has a different report. It's the same information. You just have to rewrite it, and you have to justify it to that compliance standard. So there is a lot that goes into this. Your school will audit everybody's access most likely every semester, due to the fact that you change classes and you need new access, or you need to new systems or things like that. And they have to submit a report every year to the education board of what they did and didn't do. How many people really truly like to write, are really good at English in this class? Just out of curiosity. If you're really good at English, you're going to love this. You're going to spend a lot of times writing policies, rewriting policies, editing policies, updating policies. Policies are a nice way of saying, here's written what you're going to do, the user's going to do, or how you give access all the way through. It is a user comes into the HR system, you write the policy where it comes from the HR system to the Active Directory. Then you give a user agreement. So every person that's in this class, I guarantee you signed a user agreement with the school that tells you what you can't do, what you can do, what you have access to, what you don't have access to. That is a written policy. Then if you have a more essential access, like administrative access, that is a different policy. Every audit that you have has different words of policies that you have to go through. One thing I have up here that I was going to bring up, if you give me a second to get into it. I've got, give me 1 second. I had it up and it timed out, so I apologize. Any questions why I'm getting here? Okay. I wanted to bring up. I'm logging back in, so please bear with me. I am bringing up Secure Frame because I want you guys to understand how Secure Frame, when I'm talking about audits, you understand that there are particular rules that go through. I was signed in and then it took me out. And then MFA. All right. Are you guys able to see Secure Frame?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. All right. So when I'm talking about audits, this is a SOC 2 audit report. Please understand what you see here is not a true relevant. This is one I just started up so that way you could see what I'm talking about when I say there are rules that you have to follow. I'm going to cover a few different things that you may not have to think that has to do logically with identity access management. But when I tell you truly that we as IAM manage everything that goes through a user is done in identity access management. From the board of directors down to the lowest person that's the janitor. All the access, everything that they have access is auditable and in here. So when we talk about monitoring access, so if we go monitoring activities, the state's development, performance, ongoing separated things right here, controls, present and functioning. Everything that you look at the controls of a user are here. Third-party engagement, identity access is involved in it. Continuous monitoring solutions of internal controls. That's where I was just telling every user's access is reviewed constantly. Vulnerability scanning is actually part of cybersecurity. Why do we get into it? Because if a user's access is tied into this scan and it's a ID that's been found on the dark web or an ID that has been doing something that shouldn't have been doing, it all pulls into this. We can talk about change management, has heavily things on that. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. I didn't know if somebody had a question or if it was a sneeze. I apologize. Pull this back up. When you're looking at change control, this is one of the things that every person that is involved in, from HR to marketing to things, if something changes on that network and it can have an effect on the entire company, they look to you to make sure it doesn't. So if they want to change the entire marketing team's access from a standard user to a middle grade user, which is not an admin, but a little bit more access, and you're using rollback technology, that has to be approved through change management. You have to test that on your QA and dev environment, and then you go through that. And then you say, yes or no, this can be done. Risk management, you have to write risk on every user. So if you're used to hearing, again, domain admins, you have to write a risk report on those. When you build out anything every audit has a list of priorities that you have to go through. One of the audit things that I was talking to my company today is a new change that was driven in SOC 2 is our board of directors not only have to sign the legal guardian thing, we also have to pull from their business a SOC to report to on there, and it has to be tied to their identity. So when you look at things in this section, this is where we make our bread and butter, is in audits and compliance. This is why we are heavily used in businesses. Any questions so far?
When you show us your, the audit that you have on the screen.
Yep.
It's a bit small for us to see. Is
Okay.
it possible you could zoom it in just so that we could see the type of, language that's used in it?
Oh yeah, I apologize.
And do you guys usually like automate your audits and things like that, or is it manually or?
So
you
we
guys-
do both. And the reason we do both is some audits companies allow automation due to the fact it helps speed up. Other ones we have to manually do, like FISMA, High Trust, federal things. Those are all manual. That's where LBMC, Deloitte, and them, will come in and do an audit. When you're that big of a company, you do want those people on the outside helping you to ensure you're passing, because automation can be twisted. I'm going to say that word, because you can make a service account look like a user account and say it's doing something, and it can go rogue and nobody's watching it. So you want the things, or it goes rogue and you get in the habit of seeing it. So when you're those big things, you have those people that see the changes faster than you will. You do, for us, we use frameworks. The only thing we use it for is to ensure that we go through each of the controls and say, yes, we did this one. No, we didn't do this one. And then we submit our entire packet. Our packet is 99 pages long of just to prove that we are SOC 2 compliant. We meet. So when we do ours, we have to meet all these regulations and about 11 more. So these are all the regulations my job is required to do. Every day, I have to ensure we go through and we submit our things. And yes, we are one of 4 businesses that are CMMC level 3 approved. So when you look at it, you see I stay busy with my team constantly running around everything. When you get to certain things, you will have teams that do this. When you're, in certain areas, you can only do this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Is this big enough now that you can see?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the ones, like physical access control, a lot of people don't realize physical access does fall under identity access management. So if you go in here and you look, and this is where it becomes the fun stuff. Personnels are assigned unique IDs to access information. That is your Active Directory. That's where your unique ID. Everybody on your school has a unique identity. Service status is encrypted at rest. Who manages that? Guess what? Identity does. Why? Because we manage the endpoints and we manage the encryption that's on those endpoints. This is where I got into the encryption and key management policies for each user. These are secrets for your AWS, your Google Cloud, your Amazon Cloud. My teams as IAM, my last job, had 400 people that worked for me. Secrets were managed through me. These are all identity access controls that you are looking at here. If we go back to a different control, go to risk assessment, one of my favorites. I love risk things. Do I have policy treatment things going through to ensure likelihood, impact of a team member, customer, vendor, supplier? What are the risks that I have of those people? Those are their identities coming in. Do I have senior management board of directors reviewing my policies, ensuring I keep roles, security risk, and responsibilities under audit things? I personally report to 4 different boards of directors. I have to report to the IBM board at my position, my business board, AWS board, and Microsoft's board. Why? Because we're partners with them, and I have to give my risk assessment of my users to each of them. So if you thought this was going to be an easy job, you can now see that the board of directors has a responsibility per SOC code to ensure they're tracking this. I just wanted you guys to see firsthand. That's why I wanted to pull up that what I'm talking about is actually written and goes through. Any questions so far?
So when you started out with only encryption, that's correct?
Correct.
How did you, from encryption, scale up to such a over like a very inflated position? Your position right now is a lot of different standards you have to follow, a lot of different things that you have to take track of. So in your case, when it came to scaling up your career and your responsibilities, what advice would you give to us who also want to scale up our career, our responsibilities, and so on?
So the first thing I learned was when I first started out in encryption, I wanted to know what it went to. So then I had to go learn Microsoft. And at the time, everything was on-prem. This is, 20 years ago, there wasn't hardly any cloud. So I started going because the Army's heavily in cloud, heavily on-prem still today. So I went and got my Microsoft certification. That took me to Active Directory. From there, it just opened the world. Once I knew where everything was centralized, I just spent years. For 2 years, I spent in just policies. For 3.5 years, I spent as an auditor. And I just built and built and built going through. What I did for me is found what I absolutely love and then built on it. I loved Active Directory. I still do. So I got through. I kept asking, why are we getting all these policies? And then they said, okay, here. And they taught me the policies. Once you get your core Active Directory and you understand it, and Active Directory itself is for Microsoft certification still today because of what it can do, it opens your world to where you want to go next. I'm not the person that sits down and just gets happy in one location. I'm the person that goes out and constantly wanting to learn more so I can better my team. My team is required to take 5 certifications a year, and that's a course that I will budget in my budget every year for them to go and learn something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right. So I know that probably didn't answer your question, but that's how I did.
Really quick, I think, if you don't mind me asking the question.
Go ahead, sir.
I get that question asked a lot from the students. What would be the top certifications that I should go through? And I tell them, here's my answer. It depends on the job and what they're looking for. In this field, you've got a whole bunch of certifications. You're not going to go out there and get a cert for everything. So get it based on what the job is looking for. So
Correct.
I'll become the student, and I'll wear the student hat, and I'll ask you the same question that I get asked all the time. What would be the top certifications that you would recommend for students to go through?
If they want to get in identity access management, the first certification I tell everybody is go get your Microsoft certification. Every business has an Active Directory, whether it's IBM's, AWS, or Google's. Once you understand that Microsoft core concept, because that's what every business uses, it will open where you want to go.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, can you go back to the previous screen? I just want to see for myself, like the password policies. Would you be able to like show us that or like?
Oh, password policy inside Secure Frame?
Yeah, like where it's
Okay,
located.
so we go. All right, so password policy in a audit means the bare minimum. If you're talking about like corporate password policies, those are policies that are driven by Active Directory saying this is what you must meet. So which part of this are you talking about? Are you talking about just that SOC has a requirement that you have to have a password policy, or what a password policy would look like?
Yeah, like the password, like what it would look like.
Okay, so here. I'm only going to do it this way just because I don't have everything. So one of the things that, and I don't have Active Directory up right this second on my network. So I want to show you this because this is what you're going to learn in your Microsoft. Does that make sense? And it's the same way if we are using AWS or anything. So when we talk about Active Directory, we're talking about domains, controllers, and things like that. This is the core root of your system that we've been talking about. Under your domains, you will have something called group policies. Okay. This is where Microsoft goes excellent into the course. It teaches you what a group policy is, how to write them and things. But within that, the business goes and creates a policy that's tied to each user, and they set what it can and cannot be. So for most Active Directors, the password, you can't use the same one for 24 passwords. Believe it or not, it's now 96 for most businesses. So you can never use the same one password within your lifetime. And they do that so that because the largest password vault in the world is 5 petabytes. And yes, you can download that. If you've got 5 petabytes worth of space, go ahead and download it. It is a rainbow table style, so it starts at 0, 1, goes out however big it is. Next, your maximum password age. Most places now are, says 42. As an example, my place, we rotate passwords every 90 days. So every 90 days, we have to create a new password. If you're an administrative account, like your admin accounts, it's every 30 days. And we do have software that says that encrypts both sides, that says your password on your administrative side and your password for your render account cannot look the same, cannot be the same. If they do, it's an HR violation. Minimum password age on this, means, just so you know, if you set my password today, I cannot change my password today. I can't change it until after 24 hours. Okay. Most places we set it and then we make you wait a week at the minimum to change it again. One, if you're changing your password too much, it confuses to all the domain controllers. And then we've seen people cause problems with their cell phones because everybody's now has got email on their cell phones, text messages, all that goes through that. The password length, depending on your job and things, the SOX audit only requires 16 characters now. My business, we're up to 32 character passwords. Our administrative accounts have to be 40 characters. The max that you can have in Active Directory is 68. Yes, if you're trying to think that is, you're going to end up creating what they call pass phrases, where it's like Jill ran to the store and everything is changed out. So you may have a capital J, may have an and sign. You can't just create a password. You actually have to create a full phrase to remember your password. Complexity, that's upper, lowercase symbol, not been used, those things that you see constantly. You see these on your bank. Your bank, when you log in, tells you to change your password. It's got to meet these criteria things, your Google, everything. That is where that comes for. Storing passwords for using reversible encryption. everybody disables that. We don't want anybody to come through and be able to pull yours out. So that gets into where you're starting to salt and things like that. So if you want to be a password cracker, run Jack and Jill, any of those things, you're going to have to learn how to do salt and stuff.
The minimum password age, what was that again for? The 1 day?
The 1 day. So if I change my password today, I have to wait 24 hours before I can change my password again.
Okay,
My business, we have it set at 7 days. So the minimum I can change is every 7 days. The
and
minimum.
you had mentioned it's because it has to push through the system.
Correct.
So it's gonna create a mess if it's not at least set to that.
Well, so it also depends on how often your domain controllers go through, how many domain controllers, your location. There's a lot of other factors that goes into that. So where my business is, we have 5 domain controllers and they're all around the world. So the ones in India, the one in Australia update not as frequency as the ones in the United States. So when somebody's trying to change their password on the India side, it in Australia will update and then it takes longer to update here. So we have found a delay. So we set it at 7 days. I know companies that have so many things, so many domain controllers that they leave it at 1 day because their domain controllers replicate every 15 minutes and it's constantly a replication repar that goes back and forth.
Thank you, that's good information.
Yeah. So, and that actually depends on a lot of factors that go into that. Now, if I stand up 6 more, I can probably lower that to it because I will then have 2 masters and I'll have 4 slaves. Again, I'm not being rude by that. That is what they are called. You will learn that through Microsoft. And the reason that they are called those, because those are the key ones, what they send out to your other domain controllers, everybody else receives it. They are the only ones that approve the changes.
Okay, thank you, that's great information.
Sir, does that answer your question about password?
It does. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Okay, any questions? Okay. So as you spend time into the IAM world, one of the key things you're going to run into is multi-factor authentication. I'm sure you guys have heard this enough that you're sick and tired of it. I will tell you, do whatever you do, you're going to hear about it for the rest of your life. Anything from banks to your cell phone to logging into your email, logging into your computer, that is all driven here. There are more and more regulations that says anything that is a privileged account, which is like your admin, they have to have it. The next thing that you're going to see within authentication is new password lists. So BIOS, your retina scans, you've got voice authentication now. Those are your next adaptive that you're going to go through. Each of those have to be audited. Each of those have to be tied to a user. Each one of those has to have a risk based on that. So if you're not seeing it's a round robin that you do in identity access, new something comes out, you go through the process over and over again through it. I'm trying to stay very high level for you guys on this. Anything right this second on MFA? Any questions about that? Okay. So fine grain entitlements, these would be your AD groups that provide access to an application or a cloud-based authentication. The newest, greatest thing is just-in-time access, just enough, just in time. Basically, you go and say, hey, look, this account needs access for 10 minutes to do this type of rework. And then you request it, your manager approves that 10 minutes, your account's elevated to an administrative level. At the end of 10 minutes, it automatically shuts off and it doesn't provide any of those additional access. You hear Microsoft and Microsoft and AWS preaching this heavily these last few years. IBM is going with a different route. They want to do more of this, if you ever stay in this CyberArk style, where it's application driven instead of user driven. So the user signs in, the application has administrative rights to do what it needs, and then falls short on that. Go ahead.
I got a question about that too.
Yeah.
I experienced a situation like that recently where there was installation of software performed, and then the IT staff said that it actually had been deleted because user account privileges. And I'd never heard of anything like that before. We usually have like an image, it's already preset.
Right.
And it was something along the lines of what you're talking about. They said it was application driven, and they're still trying to work with it because it's brand new, work out the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused us kind of a big issue because we didn't have the app when we needed it for a class.
Correct, sir.
So I just was wondering, I guess just a little more elaboration on that. I appreciate that.
Yep. So application driven. So you've got an application on your computer and anybody can log into it. There are no sets between administrator user and a individual user. What it does is it gets tied, most of them, I say most of them because not all of them, gets tied to an AD group on the back side. That's how the users get put in and pulled out, is through the AD group. What happens is that AD group does not get associated with administrative rights within that application. So on the AD side, it says this is a standard AD group. It's not a privileged group. The application no longer sees that application of giving that access. And so what it causes is that application to read that group as a non-administrative function. So it doesn't allow it to work, or not even, be honest, allow you to log in, because it doesn't read the AD group as this group has administrative provision. These are just a group that is set within the AD itself and then pushed out. So the computer itself is not administrative level at all. The application can perform administrative action within the application, or what the application can do. Does that answer your question?
I'm trying. That one, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one, but that's I think kind of big for these guys because it's a change that's coming up in modern times here.
Yeah, and believe it or not, that's been just driven in the last 3 to 5 years, that we can keep a computer as a standard user, but give permission to do of an application to do those functions without the user needing additional accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So that is relatively new to this whole environment. If you like, CyberArk is one of the ones that are leading that. So you can look at their software. And if you take my name, I'd love to sit down and give more detail about that, if that makes sense.
Would that be an option for us later?
Yeah. Anybody can have my name and number as long as you don't call between 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. because that's the time I sleep.
Wait.
Oh, do you follow the Uberman sleep schedule?
Say that again?
Oh, you follow the Uberman sleep schedule?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
I go to bed about midnight, honestly, every night, and I'm up at 4:30. My job never stops. My life never stops.
I apologize for that, man. I feel for you. I got some days like that myself, and I used to have some bad ones when I was in IT, and I just, kudos to you for doing that.
I'm good. I don't know how much time I have left. How much time do you guys have left on your meeting?
That's a great question.
We're flexible, the meeting ends at 8 o'clock, so,
That's all I need.
but they're learning.
Yeah,
Yep, so we're doing good.
yeah.
Yeah, we're learning.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I can do, let me skip around if that's okay then. Okay. To cover through some key points. So this is cloud identity access management. So you've heard me talk a lot about the difference between these. So AWS, Google, IBM, Azure all have basically an identity access integration inside their clouds. And what it is, it's sort of kind of like, not really, um, identity access management on a grand scale. Okay. But what they really did truly is they did roles in the cloud versus individual accessations or visual access. This allows you to go a whole lot broader than it is narrow things. Now, you can tie your Active Directory to your cloud. If you create a user on your Active Directory, they replicate to your cloud, and then they can pass back and forth. But the cloud actually has its own true integrations that you have to learn. And it is outside of this. The reason I bring this up is almost every account in the cloud is a federated account. That means it has to have a true identity tied to it. Service accounts don't work as well in cloud as they do on-prem. So there's your big things. Bots don't work as well in cloud as they do on-prem. Now, you can build a server inside your cloud environment and grant those bots and service accounts to work with it, but they're still pulling off your server. They're not pulling off a true Azure cloud or a true AWS cloud. Does that make sense? So just understand that there are some crazy things that are being developed daily in the cloud. This one. Sorry. We were just talking about this. So when you do your audits, when you're doing your users accountability, we talked about everybody has to have a risk. Everybody has to have a thing. That's where managing your service accounts and your secrets in your cloud is a big deal, because if one goes rogue, it can take down your entire network. If one gets scripted that does something it's not supposed to do, or a secret doesn't get rotated on time, that exposes your entire network. They're going to come back to IAM. They always do, and say, why didn't you catch this? Why didn't we have a policy? Because it's a user driven. Even though secrets may be on a different team and inside your thing, or your inventory is tracked by your auditors, at the ultimate day, it's IAM that gets hammered. I hate to say it that way. So that's why more and more of us are being involved in ensuring that this stays together. The next big thing you guys probably hear every day is zero trust. Who can give me the best definition of zero trust? Go ahead, sir.
So, the best definition I can give for zero trust is basically giving at the very least the least amount of privileges for each user. And that basically means you don't trust them to do anything other than what they're designed to do. So for example, someone who works in the financial aspect of the company, they might have access to the financials, but they don't get to see who gets fired and hired.
So that more sounds like least privileges than zero trust. So zero trust definition is, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. Until you convince me of who you are, I'm not going to let you pass. So
I must have messed up the definition.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
Yeah. So what you described was perfectly least privilege access. Finance can only see finance. Cybersecurity sees the whole entire company. HR can only see HR. Get that? That's least privilege. But yeah, zero trust is you have to convince me multiple times of who you are. And if you don't, I throw you out. So it's like going to buy a car. You can give your driver's license, you can give your blood, you can give your firstborn. I'm still not going to accept who you are. We got to work that through. So that's what zero trust. And you're learning more and more every day. Zero trust and identity access are being driven together. Why? Because you can give a user certain access and you do their MFA, you do their certificates on their computers, you do their VPNs, you do all these things that fall within IAM to validate who they are. Does that make sense?
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Brett.
Yeah, so that's where we see this. I have seen where they used to put Zscaler teams, which is a big zero trust company, under a different team. Now they're being put under identity access because Zscaler does the zero trust software, but we manage who can and cannot do this. Who can and cannot do this because we don't know who they are. They have to validate against all of us. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in regards to zero trust, does that lead to like the authentication process, like the multi-factor authentication? Are they like, similar or do they
Yeah,
come together?
Yeah, so zero trust, MFA are always going to be together because that is one part of zero trust. Another part is your certificates. My work computer has 64 different certificates to validate who I can and where I can't go to. Another big thing is we do MAC controls. So even if somebody tries to spoof my Mac, if they don't have my MFA, they don't have my certificates, they don't have my BIOS, because all our computers, we use UB keys to use our fingerprints, it's not going to let me through. I have to meet all these requirements before I can log on to the network. So they do go into zero trust. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm trying to dig through my slides because I don't want to take your guys' time up. So the next thing is overprivilege. Somebody has too much access and they don't use it all. I.e., most system administrators get heavily carried away with this. Somebody that's been in the company for 20 years has a lot of access. That's no give. We talked about orphan accounts where they're here, they're not there. We don't know what they belong to anymore. That's a big one. Manual provisioning versus high HR integration. We want HR to tell us who we can keep and who we can't keep. And then the last thing that we want to do is a lot of our access in the cloud, make sure it replicates what we want would be on-prem. So that way they don't have more access in one environment than both. So the key takeaways, you're going to learn governance, compliance, auditing, zero trust heavily. IAM is the fundamental of all security. Yes, it says healthcare. I do apologize. I thought I took that out. Apparently I didn't save it right. All security starts and ends with IAM. And every time something new or changes, it is self-driven IAM first. Change control drives it, everything. Any questions? Because I don't want to tie up your guys. It's 7:30 now. You guys got 30 minutes left. Who wants to go into IAM?
Hey, we can keep going.
Considering that.
My interest started with like the time of being, just like you're kind of talking about, so a lot of this like makes a lot of sense to me, and I've been studying it for a while, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the more you stay in cybersecurity, the more you're going to learn this. Hackers learn IAM because this is where it's key driven. I call them hackers, pen testers, whatever you want to call them, if you're in there. one of the big things that I have learned is that everybody loves to tie up your time to ask questions in IAM world due to the fact that everything goes through users' accounts. So,
All right, well, thank you so much, John. We appreciate it. Thank you.
no problem. You guys have fun. If you need anything, let me know.
Definitely. Thank you for so much.
Anytime.
Talking with
Would
us.
it be possible to get your contact information?
Yeah, I'll post it in Discord.
Oh, okay, great.
All right. Have fun, everybody.
Have fun. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah.